My name is Sarah Farmer, and like Tony shared, I'm with Thomson Reuters, and I'm presently with the governance, risk, and compliance team. I was with the identity team for several years. But right now, my primary focus is applying governance and evidencing to our processes as the engineers around me stand up the technical solutions. So in other words, I fend off the auditors so the engineers can do their jobs, right? It's a highly audited space, so it's a lot of, we have to factor that in and what we do. So today I'm going to share with you the details of Thomson Reuters' journey with Radiant Logic. A lot of our work began with the awareness that it was time to retire legacy systems. They were nearing end of life, and it made sense to upgrade our directories to something newer. So this idea, this awareness, in combination with a significant divestiture, led our leadership down the path of rebuilding from the ground up. So with our company ultimately basically split in half. And so this gave us the opportunity to address governance issues. Suddenly cleaning up orphaned accounts became something we could tackle more readily. Plus it became necessary, right, with the split, who goes, who stays. We had to work all of that out. We could also apply new rules and limits to our environment to address common issues that most of us see, such as nesting. After 10 years on the same platform, the nesting, it went really deep. So we cleaned up the admin access and misuse of privileged accounts, right? Sometimes folks, the highly privileged accounts end up shared far and wide. So we took time to clear all that up. And since we started fresh, we've kept the keys to the kingdom very, very close to us. Enterprise and domain admin, no longer the days that everybody on the help desk got that type of access and they could rush off reactivating accounts. We've changed all of that. So tightening up these efforts and overall good hygiene have made my life a lot easier. We're able to address these audit inquiries in a cleaner fashion, and we're able to more confidently demonstrate and discuss our processes with audit in our matured environment. So with all that being said, getting here was truly a journey. And as I mentioned earlier, we had to split our tangled infrastructure spaghetti into two clean buckets. So there's strategy involved with that and peeling back the bits and not causing major outages in your system as you're doing it. And unfortunately, there isn't a magic pair of scissors to chop things in half with either. So how did we do it? I'm going to turn it over to Dave, and he's going to share more about the solutioning our spaghetti mess with the rebuild approach in mind. Dave?
Hey, I'm David Westhaver. I'm currently part of the Thomson Reuters identity team. My part of the team specializes actually in virtual directories. Shortly after I started with the company, as Sarah just mentioned, we suddenly were going through this massive divestiture. So we were handed pretty much four major problems that we had to solve within the directory space. The first problem was brought about by an aging repository, identity repository, that was no longer going to be supported. I'm sure a lot of people have run into that out there. And to allow for application continuity, we were going to have to retain a great deal of previous TR proprietary attributes, but allow for any new necessary controls and information. We decided to use an HDAP directory to store all the identity data. We were able to extract the original schemas and add all the additional new required attributes and controls. This allowed our governance team to be able to write to a new simplified single directory structure. The second requirement was to build a view of the new Active Directory domain. Sarah mentioned the vesting company was very large. They took over half of everything with them. And this included our primary user Active Directory. So a new AD had to be created. The problem we had to solve for was how to allow applications to migrate rapidly to the new directory before almost any of the users were actively using this new directory. To solve for this, we created a flattened view that combined the old domain and the replacement domain, allowing applications to point to one location to authenticate and authorize from either. In fact, we designed this view to also allow us to easily add and remove future additional domains for M&A needs that might come down the road. The third requirement was to support our newly developed enterprise SSO solution. For this, we created a second HDAP that would be used solely for authentication and authorization purposes. And we created a view that use that HDAP and would pull in attributes from that first HDAP I mentioned that handled all the identity data, and then any required attributes from that brand new Active Directory domain. And by doing this, it allows us to meet all of our requirements for the new SSO. And finally, and probably most importantly, in order to make all this movement simple and seamless to our users, we decided it was necessary to synchronize their passwords between the 3 directories during the migration period. So the new AD, the old AD, and then the authentication directory in HDAP. We talked to a couple different companies about using AD migration tools to sync the passwords. We found this was going to be pretty expensive, and they were telling us 30 minutes to over an hour for the syncs to happen. And of course, that was only between the ADs. That didn't handle going to our LDAP backend. So we realized this was not going to work for our user community. It wasn't going to work for us either. So we had to find a different tool to be able to attack this with. So we chose ICS. ICS allowed us to create condition statements to cover all the variations between the 3 directories. It also allowed us to exclude the divesting users, which made the divesting company very happy. And with this tool, we were able to sync the passwords for all our standard user accounts. And the best part was ICS was able to do this without an agent and took less than 5 minutes to sync a password change across all 3 directories. In fact, in most cases, it was done in under a minute. So we are continuing to use Radiant products to solution other needs within the company, but that's what we did in the past couple of years. Sarah, do you have anything else?
I don't. Thank you so much for sharing those details with us. So we want to stay on track with our Radiant partner timeframes for today. So if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn. We can talk more about the details of the approach if you have any more you want to talk about it. And I'll hand it back to you, Tony. Thank you so much.